Good afternoon. Welcome to part 2 of our training here at National Flooring Equipment. I'm Tom Griffin, the International Sales Manager. I'm joined today by Dave Bingham, our Global Director of Training.
Good afternoon, you guys. Coming at you live from Denver, Colorado.
Really excited to hopefully either have you back from this morning session or joining us for the first time. We're doing training a little bit differently this time. We're trying out some different formats. We do have some people here in our warehouse joining us for live training. So later on, once we get to the hands-on portion, you're going to be able to see people actually using the machines instead of just us being here talking heads. And this afternoon, we're going to be focusing on medium spaces. So we're going to be talking about how to do work in office spaces, small warehouses, some larger garages, just typically places that are a little bit bigger than your average home or, small cubicle office area. We're going to be doing some hands-on. We're going to talk about managing some expectations. I think really important with this one is solving some common problems with power, unmovable furniture, how to work around obstacles or people nearby that you can't change. And I think we'll talk about some accessories, but we're going to talk about grinders and scrapers and shop blasters, and we're going to have a good time. So for everybody that's online, please feel free to chat in questions. Those will get relayed to us. We'll answer them, but we're going to focus with our guests here in person. And the same thing, too, we'll repeat their questions for you guys to hear. So rather than me keep talking, let's get going.
Thanks, Tom. So medium spaces. If you guys joined us earlier, and for the guys that are here, we talked mostly about equipment for small spaces, and we don't want to segment this too much because as we move through this afternoon with medium spaces, and then tomorrow we're going to do large spaces, keep in mind that a lot of these smaller machines that you guys see in the background, we refer to those as companion machines a lot of times, because with the bigger machines, sometimes, or even the medium machines, they're not as accessible into smaller, tight areas. So you might be on a medium space job, and you still might find the need for the smaller space tools, especially some of the hand tools that we talked about this morning, or maybe some of the smaller grinders or some of the smaller shop blasters. But specifically for this session, we're going to try to focus on the medium space tools. Like commercial, and those medium-sized jobs are real popular. There's some guys that just focus on, like Tom said, like garages. But there's a lot of guys that might move from a 1,000 square foot job to a 5,000 square foot job, or maybe even a 10,000 square foot job, but maybe it's broke up into sections. So with that being said, we kind of want to talk about some production rates and what to expect out of some of the machines that we have. So this morning we talked about some of the smaller tools that are light and accessible. They're easy to pick up, they're easy to carry upstairs, easy to carry into basements, but they're not necessarily good for a 5,000 square foot job. If you're going to move into that medium space kind of job, you really want to move into a medium production machine. So what makes like a Commander or Gladiator a medium space kind of removal tool, and not a large space tool like we're going to talk about tomorrow? Well, on the large side, we're going to talk tomorrow a lot about the ride-on machines. And still, even then, these machines, even though we're going to talk about them as medium space scrapers and grinders and shop blasters, you still can utilize these kind of as your small space tools if it's what you have. You don't have to shift down to the smallest. The medium size sometimes will help a lot. This morning we showed some manual machines, a couple, and then one small 5280, which is just a Ford only. So we're going to move up, and we're going to talk about the Commander, and then we're going to talk about the Gladiator. We'll also kind of, probably from the camera shot here, they look really similar. And we're going to talk about what some of the differences are. Same thing with some of the grinders and the shop blasters. Talk about some of the differences in production and what to expect out of both of them if you're looking to solve some problems. It's important to know what kind of solutions you can expect out of these machines and what kind of tooling you can put on them to get the results that you're looking for. Everybody's looking for the easiest, fastest way to do something, and having the right tool for that certainly will get you there much quicker. Let's start with the Commander. This is the 6280. This walk behind National Scraper is a hydraulic powered 110 volt machine, and it has forward and reverse. It has adjustable position handle and operator forward and reverse handles, and it has a speed control. So who cares if the handle moves up and down? Well, right off the bat, I've been on a lot of jobs demoing equipment or watching guys work where they need to get up underneath racks or something that they need to work underneath. The last one I was on was Minute Maid Park in Houston. They were redoing all the concessions booths, and they have countertops that it wasn't possible to remove them. So the guys were first going in and scraping the materials underneath the counters and then coming back and grinding what was left. With the handle positioned this way, they were able to get up underneath the racks and the counters. And then at the same time, transport. Both machines have the ability to fold the handle all the way down. One more thing that I like is I'm not very tall, so this is actually not a very comfortable operating position for me all day long. I really prefer this right here, or even in some cases like this, where I can stand behind the machine and I can just kind of lean my body weight for forward and reverse, because I'm going to let the machine do all the work, but I still have to go forward or reverse. And this is actually really comfortable for me because I'm putting the balls of the operating handles right in the palm of my hands, and I can push forward and I can pull back all day long, and it's real simple for me.
Another really great feature on this machine that is absent from our smaller machines are the adjustable slide side weights here. Sometimes, depending on what material you're going to be removing, you're going to want more pressure on the wheels so that you get better traction. Sometimes you might actually need some weight on that head to really keep the machine in the work. So you're able to move those weights forwards and backwards very easily with the socket so that you can fine-tune the adjustment and the balance of the machine.
Where I find this the most beneficial is, I don't know if you guys have heard or if you guys have been out there on these jobs where they call it moisture remediation, where there's water coming up through the slab, and whether it's coming up underneath carpet or VCT or laminate, what happens is when that happens over time and someone finally addresses the issue, a lot of times that glue underneath that material trying to bond it, it turns into a really slippery mess. So the wheels on both these units are siped, which basically means they have little cuts all the way around on them, which help grab. But with the side slide weights Tom was talking about, if I move those weights all the way to the back, I have a ton of pressure and weight on the back wheels to help me with my traction, especially on those moisture remediation jobs where so many guys struggle to get their smaller machines to get the material up without the wheels spinning. In a few cases where maybe the VCT's really, really hard, you need more head pressure, you can actually slide those all the way forward and put even more weight on the blade to help it stay underneath the material and keep it in the work is what we call that. It helps keep it in the work.
So Dave touched on it, that these machines look very similar to each other, but we build them very differently. So the Commander is built for soft good removal only. So commercial carpet, VCT, glue removal. It's got a smaller axle, it's got thinner wheels, it has less isolators in there, so it's not built to take the heavy brunt of removing hard good flooring and all day long, but that's what we built the Gladiator for. So it's a slower machine, it's built more for torque, but it's got extra isolators, it's got thicker axles, thicker wheels, so it really is built to take the brunt of doing all of that hard good removal.
Yeah, so the easiest way to remember that is the Commander's soft goods, and the the Gladiator's hard goods. That doesn't mean you can't use this for soft goods, but if you're majority of a soft good guy and that's what you're doing and you're focusing, that's what you're bidding and that's what you're doing, the Commander is designed for that. It's faster, it's lighter, it's quicker, it's more efficient for that. If you have hard goods, if you're taking up wood floors, or if you're trying to take up ceramic tile or thin set, the HD works a lot better. It's got bigger wheels, it's got more torque, it's heavier. It's just designed for that. But I could still switch, and I put a carpet blade on this because we're going to try to take up some carpet when we start running the machine, just so you guys can see that it still works on soft goods, but it's really a hard goods machine. There's a lot of features too that you guys might not catch right away, but they have wheel scrapers. So like this VCT we were taking up this morning, super sticky, super nasty, and the wheel scrapers help keep the wheels clean. So when you're trying to remove the material, your machine's staying a little bit flatter, and it helps keep your blade under the material you're trying to remove. It keeps your production rates up. It's a nice little feature.
Yep. Something we didn't talk about earlier was getting these machines onto and off of a job site, which we've got ramps. So I'm not going to bore you with it, but both of these machines are very heavy machines, and they actually do come with transport wheels that go on the front of the machines, which makes moving them around a job site or onto and off of or from room to room a lot easier than if you just had to push them along.
You can leave that off if you want. Just get
right.
I'll pitch it. So I really feel like the best way to show these machines is to turn them on and run them a little bit. We've got a lot of different flooring in here, so that gives us a lot of opportunity to demo the machines. And you guys that are here live, you guys ran some equipment this morning where you had to drive it forward and then manually pull it back. This one's a lot easier to run just because it's going to do all the work. And right now, this machine is set up to freewheel. So the drive pins are not in the machine. And I'm going to show you guys how to install the drive pins so when we power it up, we can actually drive through the material we're trying to take up. Usually you're by yourself. I mean, if you're lucky, you have a Tom or a Dave to help you, but most of the time you're not. So I open up my pin, and normally I just pull it toward me, and I'm just going to find my wheel slot right here, and I'm going to turn it until I find the maybe someday.
Whoa, it sounds like an echo in here.
So I've got one pin installed on that side. I'm going to go ahead and install this side. I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to push it away from me. And I'm by myself, so it's just kind of balanced on the weight. That one's in. Now, this is also a great way to transport it because it can't really move. The hydraulics have it locked. What if I need to move the machine just from here to there, or I need to back it up and I haven't powered it up yet? I can't pull it back, but if I pull my handles back and open the hydraulic valve, now I can move the machine. Same thing, if I want to go forward, now it's locked. But if I want to go forward and it's not powered, I can open up the valve by moving the handle forward, and now I can push it. It's a great little trick. I'm actually holding it open with my wrists. Maybe. All right, Tom. So we're going to turn this on and peel some of this really nasty VCT off the ground. So we're going to make a little bit of noise.
But just a little bit, not too much. Because that's one of those points that we're going to be talking about when you're working in a medium space, maybe like an office space, and you guys are having to do this next to somebody's cubicle. This is really quiet. It's really not that loud. And somebody's not going to complain about that being next to their workspace if you're just doing it quick. So
I can't speed the machine up or slow it down. This is stuck pretty good, and I constantly get, you guys are cheating. That is some nasty glue. It is stuck. You guys want to come stick some to your shoes and verify for me? No need. We're not cheating. It's actually stuck down. We drive forklifts on this. We park cars in here on this. This VCT is not foot traffic. It's stuck. So can I have a volunteer from our studio audience? All right, look under your chair. No, wait, that's an Oprah show. Somebody come run this for a minute. All you got to do is turn it on.
You get a scraper.
And give it some gas and then back it up.
You get a scraper.
You get a scraper. You get a scraper. You get VCT stuck to your shoes. And you get VCT stuck to your shoes. Just hit your power switch and give it some go. Nice.
You can adjust that handle, make it more comfortable for yourself.
Yeah, he's a lot taller than me, so. So it's like your car. You guys, it's like your car. Just a little touch teach point. If you're going to turn your car, right, if it's sitting still and you're turning the steering wheel, it's hard to turn, right? But if you start backing out, it's real easy to turn your wheel. So when you get going, make sure you're moving and then kind of turn it as you move. It's a lot easier to maneuver. Once you're moving, it's easier to kind of pull it left or right. Excellent.
Yeah, it's easy.
You guys can see by the design, it's designed to roll the material up in front of the machine and keep it hopefully from getting underneath the wheels and keeping it in front of you so it's making a pile as you go. Somebody else want to run it? Anyone? 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 Bueller? Come on, anyone? No? Come on, you guys, you're killing me. Anybody from our online audience want to run this?
I do.
Hop in your car and come on over. We have snacks. Nobody wants to run it? Okay. So, I'm going to reiterate. It's a big word. I kind of have to look it up how to spell it later. If you guys have questions here, there, don't wait until the end. Interrupt. Ask questions. Chat in your questions. Surely you guys have questions like, how much does Tom make? How good looking is his hot model wife? Y'all got to have some kind of questions. I can't even say that anymore. All right.
Say what's Dave's favorite snack food?
Who's my favorite rock and roll band? Come on, y'all got to have some kind of questions. So, you guys can see this takes all the work out of it. If I did this for a living, I like the machine I showed this morning, but I would be looking for this work every day, and I would just be running this in a little ramp. You can either put a little winch, like I used to have the old Ford pop can vans, and I just had a winch mounted through the floor on diamond check plate with big washers, little ATV, four-wheeler winch, and I would just take my wheel pins out of it and just suck it right up in the van, and then I just roll it right back out with the transport wheels. Super easy to get it in and out of the vehicle. What's the question?
What type of adhesive is down?
VCT adhesive specifically that we bought at Home Depot. It just says for vinyl composite tile installation. I'm not an installer, I'm a destroyer, but I'm positive that's what the bucket said. So for the carpet, we use carpet installation glue. For the VCT, we use vinyl composite tile glue. And this stuff's been down for a year? Or more because of COVID, not a lot happened in here.
For the record, we typically don't recommend brands, but if you have a brand that you love and maybe represent that brand and you want us to show our machine up against it, send some our way. We'll install tile with it.
Super nasty. super sticky. This stuff is bad, you guys. It's all over my shoes. You can see it's all over the machine. That was a brand new machine. Trick, if you have a brand new machine, or if you're struggling with lots and lots of glue, before you start your job, once you've cleaned your machine up, get you some Pam Cooking Spray, like butter flavored. You know what I'm talking about? You spray in your pan before you throw your eggs in there. Spray your machine down, and the glue won't stick to it.
So the other question was speed adjustment. So I was just going to turn it on and show adjusting speed.
Please do. Go, Tom, go! Go, Tom, go! Happiness is cheering on your friends.
So now I'm going very slow, and the knob up here on top just allows me to turn it. And now I'm going full bore. So it's really easy to adjust the speed on the fly. Anything for...
So you guys can see there's a sticker on the back. It's a rabbit and a turtle. Pretty self-explanatory. The turtle's slower, rabbit and the turtle. I mean, it's international. Everybody gets that. So there's no words because actually National is, for real, we're a global footprint company. We sell all over Asia and Australia and Mexico and all over the UK. And by the way, the guys in the UK speak horrible English. Oh, I'm sorry. Really, you think they want to see me and just hear me? I would probably disagree that they'd be happy just to listen and not have to look at me. Thanks again, you guys, for attending. This is a lot of fun for us. We like turning on equipment. We like running equipment. Talk's kind of cheap. We do a lot of talking, but without turning on equipment and running it, I think it's a little bit different. You're not really getting to have the full experience. And for the audience that's tuned in, we do a hands-on training about once a quarter. So if you guys are interested in attending our next class, just chime in and let us know. Reach out to National and say, I want to come to the next training. And if there's something specific that you guys want to cover in greater detail than what we're talking about during our shorter sections, we had a couple hours between our first session this morning. We ate lunch, and then we had some training time. And then when this is over, we'll also, if the guys that are physically here want to turn on some more equipment or ask some more specific questions, or even take some machines apart, put them back together for maintenance purposes, or to learn anything they want, that's a huge advantage to coming in person. And we have pretty good snacks. Did I say that already?
And beverages.
Snacks. All right. Let's jump over to...
I got this guy.
You sure?
Yeah. If you want to start with carpet, maybe.
Do you want me to go this way so you can see it? Or do you want me to go toward them? Yeah. So same thing, I'm going to put in my my drive pins because it's currently in neutral. Maybe. There's one. Okay.
Oh, it's on his.
Thank you, Nick Stefanski. That's the brains behind this operation. What's that? What'd he say? Oh. You got to watch him. He's dangerous. All right. I'm going to set this back down to where I like to run it. I'm going to turn my speed down because it's all the way up. And then I'm going to turn it on and then speed it up a little bit as I go.
So, do you have the hard goods attachment on there? The soft goods attachment?
So that's a great question, Tom.
Because
Right
we
now,
talked about that this machine is built for hard goods, but we've said that it can do
show and tell.
multiple things. So part of what differentiates and makes effective a shank versus a blade is the angle at which those items actually come into contact with the floor. And so in order to be able to make that adjustment here on the Gladiator, but they come with the machine. You actually get two different tooling heads where you can attach the tooling, and they put it at the angle so that when you're running a shank with the hard goods, the shank is actually at the proper angle just off the floor to be able to be effective, versus a much higher angle like you'll see here with the blade, so you can do soft goods removal. Gladiator only.
And it comes with both. It comes with the soft good angle attachment and the hard goods. Because that's only soft goods, the only thing you can do with the Commander to change the pitch is to add a 500
swivel
head. So this, you could buy this aftermarket, and it does two things. It makes your machine a swivel head, and it actually increases the angle. Because when I bolt this on right there, it's actually going to stand it up a little bit, and guys love that attachment. It comes in a 500 and a 505. One of them's for razor blades. One of them's for razor blades, and one of them's for standard blades. The difference is the razor blades, the slot that the blade slides into is real narrow, and for the regular blades, it's a lot deeper. Otherwise, your razor blade just disappears into it.
It's glued right now, but
And action. That is stuck. This is what happens when you drive forklifts over your carpet. Normally you tic-tac-toe it is what you do, but this has been down for a while and it's stuck really well. Definitely. So we have professional installers like me that come in on the weekend and put this stuff in, and it sits here forever. And we drive those forklifts on it. We park cars in here all the time, so it gets stuck a lot better than most standard carpets. That, you guys on the camera can't see it, but we have carpet squares that we bought real cheap that they'd pulled out of a building. I think we paid a nickel a piece for them. They've been down for years, and we keep taking them out a little bit at a time. But man, they are stuck because of the tile and everything else. We try to drive our forklift up and down that aisle right there. So it is stuck. Even with the rider, I teach the guys to tic-tac-toe it, and here's why. If you took this whole section of carpet, and it was a big room, if you did every 4 or 5 feet, and then you came back and went this way, when you come back this way, you're taking up about a 5-foot strip that you can pick up and fold in on itself and put it on the cart and get it out of the building, because the glue on this is sticky, just like everything else. I mean, it's still sticky. It's not dry glue. It's not like the carpet's been here for 20 years and it's dry. It's actually still really well bonded. So the trick to it is, if you tic-tac-toe it every time you go to take it up, you end up with manageable pieces. That's true for the riders. If the riders, it's a lot faster. So what you end up with is you have to have more guys picking up the pieces and fold them up, or some guys just start with carpet side down and then glue side up and then glue side down. They just keep stacking it on their carts that way so they can get it out of, put it in the elevators to get it out of the building. True story, I was a young kid in this industry, and I demoed a battery rider, and I put a big, huge, 18-inch blade on a rider, and it was a Holiday Inn, the old style where everything's on the inside and there's the waterfall. And I rolled up this big, huge section of carpet onto the wall. And the GC said, "You are an idiot. Get off my job." And I was like, "Look, Ma, no hands. Look what I did." He's like, "I dislike you very much, and I hope I never see you again. Get off my job." I said, I don't understand how I failed. I've taken up all this carpet in just a matter of, 20 minutes. He said, "Great, young man. How do you expect me to get that out of the building?" It's in a huge roll against the wall, and I went, oh. So a lot of this teaching that I do comes from mistakes that I've made, because I didn't have anybody to call and ask. I didn't have anybody to show me how to run equipment. I didn't have anybody to tell me, cut it in. And I actually have some videos of some local guys where I've run around.
I think we have one up on YouTube of the tic-tac-toe method. Okay.
Did you get the one that I did not too long ago? It's great. It's a great example to see how the guys efficiently are doing it. And I learned that from them, because obviously I didn't know what I was doing when I started. So having the opportunity to learn from somebody else's mistakes is super helpful, because you won't roll up, I don't know how many yards of carpet, to a giant roll on one end, and then have to try to, he made me try to, of course it took like 10 guys just to unroll it, and then they had to cut it with blades. And I made what would have been a pretty easy job with a ride-on machine pretty difficult, and it made for a really long day. So obviously I don't make those mistakes anymore. I don't roll up giant rolls of carpet. You got to cut it in small enough sections that you can manage it. That's important. And that's not really managing your customers' expectations. That's just better planning than not having the knowledge to do it a better way. So, there's a funny story. Lots of Nationals equipment has lights on it. I was on a job site, it was many years ago, and these two young Latino kids had two of the 7-Eleven plastic flashlights, like from the 60s, duct taped to their machine, shining down on the ground. And I was like, because job sites never have power lights, and if they do, it's one tripod in the corner just blinding you. It's not helping you see a dang thing. And I was like, that is absolute genius. They could see what they were doing to the floor where they were prepping it because of those flashlights. So I took it back to the office and went, "Hey, can we put lights on our machines?" And everybody went, "Why would you need lights on your machines?" Do you guys know of anybody that doesn't have a light on their machine today? So it just goes to show that those two guys were definitely smarter than me. I don't know why I'm pulling on it. It's still plugged in.
It was like you glued that right into the carpet.
Did you guys have any questions about mistakes I've made?
No, but I do know some people want to run this guy.
Okay.
So,
do you guys want to run this one or this one? You want to run this? Okay. We can do that. I don't know if my wood floor scored. I don't know if the wood floor, we can change it. That's not a problem. So I know that there's guys watching, but that's okay. We'll just show them how to change it. Normally when I'm working on a machine, I try to unplug it. That's another failure story we'll talk about later. So all I really need is a 9/16. And because we have soft goods, you guys are wanting to see it take up some wood floor or some ceramic tile. So we're going to change the pitch by removing this, because this is the soft goods. We're going to put on a hard goods. So all I'm going to do is loosen up. A lot of guys think they have to take this weight off. You don't. I'm just going to take this, and I'm going to loosen up these bolts just a little bit. Maybe. laminate, rubber, anything that's monolithic that you need to cut, because we can't take this whole carpet up. If I put a flat blade, it's going to start lifting it, it's going to get so far, and then it's just going to grab it, it's not going to go anywhere.
And I know you said monolith, but even if you've got some like 36-inch carpet squares or something like that, you want to cut it down into smaller sizes, then you can use the self-scoring blades for that.
And some carpet squares, you can put a big enough flat blade on that you can pop them up, but not always. Like, I'm not joking, we drive forklifts on that. Tomorrow we're gonna run that big 8,000. There's no way you're gonna put a flat blade and take those off because they are so well bonded. Well, if I can get my, if I can talk and work at the same time.
I think you guys can sit on it with that, but somebody in the chat said, can this tool, can the tool to remove the carpet also be used to restrict the adhesive? So if you want to...
What's the question?
So the question was, can the tool that we use to remove the carpet also be used to rescrape the adhesive? And I think usually when we talk about doing a rescrape for the adhesive, we're talking about using a razor blade or maybe a 1-inch blade, something that's smaller. So you're going to use the same angle attachment,
Yes.
so the same head that Dave is changing out right now, but you're actually going to use a different swivel head. You're going to use the razor blade swivel head because that's designed to hold those blades that are specifically meant for rescraping glue.
But if you guys don't have that available and you have your machine, you want to use the soft good attachment because it's stood up better. The shank, you're not going to scrape very well kind of laying down. That's for sliding up underneath the hard goods. You want to stand up. So if all you had was a 8-inch 0.062 blade, it would rescrape pretty well. Razor blades scrape more, but that usually takes a little bit more skill and a little more understanding, and usually need the right attachment for it, whether it's for a rider or for a walk behind.
So I will leave the actual tool with you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. It's going to be a little hard to see, and I don't think we showed this earlier. So the swivel head looks very similar, but when you see here on the side, the notch that holds the blade only goes in a very shallow amount right here, whereas a normal blade would actually go a lot further down inside this tooling holder.
Done.
So
One
if you guys
1/9/16
can see
wrench
that.
is all you need.
So you can see how shallow that is, and on a traditional one it goes a lot further down, so those blades stick out.
Oh.
Now another great thing might be, I only have a 12-inch swivel head. What size blades can I use? So what I always tell people is you want to support the full width of the blade doing the work. So in a 12-inch, you could use a 4-inch, a 6-inch, an 8-inch, a 10-inch, a 12-inch. You just want to make sure that's supported, and also that you're able to get into what you're doing. So if the area is only 10 inches wide and you're trying to shove a 12-inch cutting head in there, it's not going to work.
Somebody in the chat is wondering more about carpet pullers and how they kind of fit into this lineup when you use a carpet puller versus...
That's a great question.
Carpet pullers have been around since Sue Perry started at National. If y'all know who that, she's famous. She retired today.
And I was going to say, we have to give a shout out. We're going to miss you, Sue.
Carpet pullers are a clam. I don't have one here because every time I bring one in here, someone local comes over and grabs it and sells it. Some local distributor. My local distributors are great. They keep selling all my equipment. It's basically just a big clamshell. You open it up, and the bottom of it has little
Shark teeth.
shark teeth. There you go. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate you. And you put it on the carpet, and it holds it in place. And it has a winch on it. And you cut the carpet with the box blade. You start to peel it up a little bit, and you put that big clamp on it. And it grabs the carpet. You run back and hide behind it. And of course, you stretch your rope out. It grabs a hold of it. And then when you engage it, it pulls it towards you, and it just rips the carpet right off the floor. It's pretty amazing, especially in big churches, those old Holiday Inns, these places that are real wide open. And I have a lot of guys go, "Pah! I take my ride-on machine." That's great, but you just have to remember, the whole world can't afford a ride-on machine, nor do they have they don't have a vehicle to transport it or a trailer, yada, yada, yada. The carpet puller, I think is really more for guys that are installers, but they need to remove the carpet. They fold it up, they throw it in the van on top of their carpet. They show up, they take all the carpet out, put it in their dumpster, and then they start installing their carpet. It's an inexpensive, and there's two kinds. There's a 71 carpet puller, and then there's the 72 high speed, which just means it pulls it a lot faster, basically. But they're really cool. I've seen them in action a bunch. They used to be more popular, but guys have gotten a little more efficient with the ride-on machines. But we still sell a ton of them, and they work really well. And
I actually had a local guy who's bought a bunch of different machines from me, and he showed up in the back of his truck. He was like, I've got a removal tool you will have never seen before. I was like, okay, well, it's not hard. I'm fairly new to this industry, and there's a lot of stuff out there. And we go out, and he's got shot blasters, and he's got big grinders, and he's like, look at this really cool thing I got. And it was one of our carpet pullers just sitting there. And I was like, hey, man, can you tell me who made that? And he looked to the side, and it just said National right across the side. He's like, I hate you. And just walked away. But he's one of those guys that doesn't need, like you were saying, he doesn't need a ride-on floor scraper. He doesn't do it all the time, but he does it enough that he needs something.
Nick Stefanski, can we take up some ceramic tile behind you? I know you got to move some computer equipment and. All right, who wants to remove a ceramic tile? Dang it. Oh, he wants me to change directions, so. Sure. Not really. I've got a giant cut right there, and it hurts like all hell. So it's hard when I'm pulling on those handles. Not really, especially if you're moving, it'll turn with you. It's a little bit hard if it's sitting still, but
you guys don't have like a 2 or 3 inch wide chisel head for that? For the ceramic? Yeah, right.
So you pull out and kind of target.
for ceramic, it has to be a carbide tip. That's bonded way too well.
Okay. So you just kind of keep do a little bit back up
Yep, and you
or
can
do you just keep on going?
just kind of try to keep it
Feels
going.
Like it's lifting, but I can't see it.
No, you're good. I'm watching you. So sometimes with the 1 inch blade especially, it has a tendency to swivel like that.
Right.
So you just have to either keep your eye on it, or whoever you have cleaning up with you, just have them keep their eye on it. And every once in a while, you can come back through and so I would say get back into it. And
It just depends if it's slipping or not. The question was, where would you want the side slide weights if you're taking up tile? It depends on if you're struggling to take it up. If it's coming up, it's hard to come up, you probably want to put it forward. If really your side slide weights in the rear are more for slippery conditions more than anything, where you're getting a lot of wheel spin. And another question that came in, I guess I'm not in camera, is when can I use a really wide shank, carbide shank, versus the 1-inch shank that's on there? The answer to that's super simple. How well is the material is bonded? So usually even with a ride-on machine, we use a 2-inch shank. So the chances of you being super successful with a carbide shank that's this wide is minimal. If it's not laid down very well and the floor is really flat, you're probably going to get away with this. But most of the time, to break it up, you're gonna at least ditch it with a 1-inch shank. Because you guys, this is a walk-behind machine. You can only expect just so much out of it. It works, but you know, it's still a walk-behind machine, 110 volt.
So you get a few of those and then put that one on there and clean it up?
Yeah. Yep. So, any questions about taking up ceramic tile with walk-behinds?
anybody else want to jump on it? Come give it a go.
So just find an edge, and normally you'd have a guy with a broom or something helping you out, trying to keep it out of the way a little bit. I'll be your broom. Yeah. Marketing, who's going to take my job next week, let's talk about how to approach a job like this, especially with the walk behind, but it's true for the riders too. The camera's fine right there. If you guys were going to start taking up ceramic tile, you always want to start, if you can, on the outside. And here's why. Tile's hard to get up off the floor. I don't care what kind of machine you're using. This tile right here is locked in here and here. So when I go to take it up, I'm going to have a lot more success taking up bigger pieces quicker. If I start right there and I want to take up, can we still see me? This one, this is now locked in here, here, and here. So which tile is going to be easier to take up? That one or this one? This one. So, and I know you're going, well, the whole floor's got tile, Dave. Great, I get that. So ditch down the middle and then work your way out. Don't go right down corner to corner and just keep going in at it. Stay on the outsides and keep working it off the floor. That's true for walk-behinds, riders, hammer trolleys. Always start. It'll speed your production up a ton.
True.
That's a great trick. I actually, so there's a lot of stuff in my head, including some voices that nobody wants to hear. But to get it all out is hard, especially when I only have 2 hours and we have lots of machines to go over. And when we're talking about medium spaces, that's a majority of what the world's doing. There's a few guys that are doing a lot of really big stuff, and there's a real small group of guys that do just small stuff. So the guys that are doing the great big huge 10,000 square foot jobs, If you call that company and go, hey, we do my garage floor, they go, ha ha, click. They won't even respond to you. There's guys that want to do that kind of job, but the big guys don't want to do that. And the guy that specializes in garages, and he has the equipment to do it, he's got the knowledge how to do it. If you call him and someone goes, hey, you want to do 100,000 square feet? He's probably going to be like, ha, no, I don't have. He doesn't have the manpower. He doesn't have the equipment to do it. He's probably not interested in that. So there's not a lot of crossover. But the medium-sized job, that covers probably 80% of the contracting base. Everybody's doing something between, 5,000 and 50,000 square feet. If I was a contractor and I did garages for a living, and you called and asked me to do 200,000 square feet of shop blasting, I would say no. I don't have the equipment, or I don't have the labor. I just can't do that. And at the same time, if I had great big huge shop blasters or great big huge grinders, you wanted me to come to a garage, that's not really profitable for me. I mean, I'm not set up for that. I could do it, but I'm not going to. Dave, you're cheating, except for I'm not, because my thin set is still attached to the back of the tile. If I was cheating, it wouldn't be. That's the other thing. Everyone's like, you're just laying it down with gravity. That's not true. We drive this forklift over this every day, and it's still mostly here.
Well,
yeah, and the forklift weighs 5,000 pounds. I do break my edges with the forklift, but come on. That I don't care how well you put your tile down the forklift, especially if you guys can tell every single slab in here comes up to a point. It's all every one of them's fishbowled. So when we go to move out and we just polish the whole thing, I'm going to have to work 2 days just to flatten the joints out a little bit. And there's going to be lots of aggregate on the joints and not a whole lot in the center. It's going to look really weird. It'll be pretty, though.
So now, what is like this one?
So this guy is 490.
I always say 500 to round it up.
Yep. So 500 pounds. And to get it on and off the job site in my van.
We drive them up in the vans. And, our big Ford vans have hydraulic lifts. Not everybody has that. A lot of guys still especially that are floor installers, they just have a little aluminum ramp, and we just plug it in and drive it up in there.
Because I am the salesman, this is set up in our catalog. There is a part number, and we would love to quote it for you. But seriously, I mean, you can get these at Grainger. You can get them from us. This one is wide enough to support the Gladiator or the Commander. In and out of the back of the van. I can put this lip down here over the threshold of a house to get these up and in over the door. They're great for going up 2 or 3 steps. I mean, I did that when I did my father-in-law's house with this guy. I had this because I've got the van with the nice lift in the back. But then to get to my father-in-law's house, it's a sidewalk with multiple steps that go down. And then it was a step to go back up to the front door, and then a step to go over the threshold into his house. So I just moved the machine along and moved the ramp along with it. And it took me 2 minutes, but I didn't stress out about having this machine and getting it on and off of that job site.
I think we're going to shift to grinders and shop blasters so we don't run out of time. We're going to run out of time. I don't want to run out of time like we did earlier.
It's a feature.
I think, should we stand in the glue and then be stuck there? I buy a new pair of shoes about every 4 months, and it's not that the shoes are necessarily wear out, but I get so much glue I can't get it off, and they get real heavy, and I have to take them off before I get in the car. My wife will not let me come in the house with my work shoes on. Strictly forbidden.
I was gonna say, I don't know about anybody else, but I've got a dog that sheds like there's no tomorrow, and I'll get adhesive on my shoes and have a small dog going around with me.
So I've been married for 27 years in a row consecutively without a break to the same woman.
And she's a saint. I don't really know.
Would you guys like to I give you some marital advice just in case? It's worked for me really well. Yes, dear. That's all it takes. Yes, dear. Just for the record, I actually like my wife. She's really sweet, and I'm really lucky. But all jokes aside, I'm pretty fortunate. But don't tell her I said that. We'll talk about the GP500, and then we'll talk about the GP700. Both counter-rotational machines. Mid-sized. So this morning, if you guys tuned in, and for you guys that are here, we showed a national flooring equipment machine called a Helix. We also showed a machine called an 8274-4. Those are fantastic machines, in my opinion, up to, about 2,000 square feet. If you wanted to grind 5,000 square feet or prep 5,000 square feet with a Helix or an 8274-4, I don't think it's a big enough machine. I don't think it has enough head pressure. I don't think it has enough production. Unless you're trying to make a career out of every job that you go to. What do you do for a living? A 4-car garage. I would highly recommend that you consider the value in either one of these machines. Price-wise, they're not really far apart. They're actually pretty close together. And some of them are better priced than you would think, and I'm not in sales. I don't know what the pricing is. Somebody can answer that for you. I really want to not talk so much about pricing. I want to talk about production. And I'm going to ask for some feedback from my live audience. They saw the machines running earlier. We're going to turn this on after we talk about it just for a little bit. And and you guys don't have to stand in front of the camera, but I'm going to ask you guys what you see in the difference for the production and what you see in a very short amount of time of a machine running. So this machine is a counter-rotational, which means the tooling holders spin like a watch inside of each other. So typically when you run these machines, unlike the planetaries on the market, you need to rock them back and forth as you're moving real slow so you won't dig 2 trenches in the floor. I actually love the fact that this machine is very similar to machines that they've been polishing terrazzo with since at least 1950. They've been polishing terrazzo since 1950. So these grinders, this style grinder has been around for a really long time. And then these companies came out with these planetary machines and told everybody, oh, that's too heavy to polish concrete.
That's literally what
That's
they were invented
amazing
to
that
do.
they tell you that. But the problem is, it's a believable lie. If you guys look at this machine and think, wow, you're going to polish concrete with that? Yep. Like ringing a bell, and you want to know how I'm going to polish concrete with that? Way faster than you and your planetary grinder, especially that first cut where you're trying to open up the floor. Y'all want to bet a Coke or Coca-Cola truck? I'll race you. This thing, or even this thing for its size in comparison, it'll get her done. And I'm not joking. These machines are awesome. So if somebody tells you you can't polish with this or this machine's no good, they are liars. And you can quote me on that on the internet. They're liars. I have polished many floors with these machines, and they work just like the other machines. Is there value to those other machines? Sure. Everybody has their own value. But don't let anybody tell you that you can't do what can be done with these machines. I like them. Try to stay on track, but the first floor I polished somewhere in South Carolina at a police station I was a kid, the guy sent me all the polishing tools, and the polishing diamonds and pads weren't really up to par yet because it wasn't a thing. And he said, don't skip steps, Dave. I said, okay. So I took a big machine like this, and I've got all my steps on the table, and I did the first grind with the first diamonds, and it took forever. And I'm like, I got to do this how many more times? So I skipped a bunch of steps. Thought that I knew better than the guy that was trying to teach me. So as it got shinier, the scratches got bigger and more obvious. It's like, man, and this is back in the day where you poured hardened intensifier 55-gallon drums out and let it sit for 48 hours. It made the floor hard. So I've ruined the floor, so I'm going to start over. I go get a big 15-inch shot blaster and I blast the hell out of the floor. And then I'm just going to go back with the grinder and start over. Now I can't grind the shot blast marks out of the floor because it's so hard. I tried for days. Finally told the GC for the police department, well, guess you're putting carpet in. Loaded up my stuff and ran away as fast as I could before they arrested me and put me in jail for something I didn't do. Don't skip steps. Don't try to be smart. If someone tells you, here's your 10 steps, bid your labor and your tooling for 10 steps. You can't skip steps. It won't work. And if you guys, I'm not, these are prep tools and polishing tools both. So if polishing doesn't apply to you, I'm sorry, but it's a pretty big topic in today's world. It's a lot of fun to learn how to polish, but if you're gonna get into that, like let's say you're prepping and someone wants you to polish something, go polish your garage, your best friend's garage, your grandmother's garage. Go out and find something to polish. Do not take a machine out on a job and try to learn how to polish, because you're probably not going to get paid for that job, and it could hurt your reputation. Go polish your neighbor's garage.
Better yet, come here
Yeah, come here
and polish our floor.
And listen, if you guys want some kind of training that's specialized, just reach out to us, and you don't have to come here in person. We can set something up, and we can go through the steps. We can do. Nick could probably speak to a dozen ways that we can accomplish training. Obviously, hands-on is the best, but and we'll specialize it one-on-one. Especially if you guys buy equipment and you need some help. Like, what's some more tricks, Dave? Can you talk specifically about this machine that we bought? I'm available for that. Just give me some heads up. All right, so I'll try to keep this on track. Sorry, we're going to talk about the GP500. Tom, I'm going to stop talking and let you talk for a minute. I'm sorry. I'm going to get a drink.
So the GP500 is the newest addition to our lineup. It's a 23-inch counter-rotational grinder. You do have removable weights up front. It can do wet and dry grinding, so you do have a water tank here. Your adjustment right here is to let the water flow or not. Even if you're not doing like a wet grind, let's say you're removing an adhesive, you could drip ice water down through here onto your tools to keep them cool, to keep them smearing the glue around.
Don't use your vacuum if you're doing that.
Yeah, don't do that. Your desk shroud is adjustable up and down with Velcro. You've got a hose management system and a cord management system. Adjustable height handle. If you're really, really tall, you've got something way up here. It also has a transport mode, so you can actually flip it over to make it easier. I'm short.
Hi, I'm Dave.
Forward and reverse, so that if you're using a directional tool on here, you can do it. It comes with 2 nice metal clubs. And this is actually a really cool feature on this machine, is that you're able to secure these handles into the front of the machine, in theory.
And joust with other grinders. Wait, no, that's not right.
We're gonna actually try and do this.
You want me to take that end?
No, I got it.
We're going to pick it up and carry it inside. With the weights on it, we probably should take the weights off it. So, literally, we can carry this up 3 or 4 stairs.
Still hefty.
It's heavy, but I can actually move it around if I need to. That's a really cool feature. This machine's a little bit bigger, a little bit higher production, a little bit more money. Not going to pick this machine up. It's not going to happen. Weren't you at the Renaissance Festival this weekend?
I was. Had a grand old time.
Mosquitoes flying around you?
Apparently.
Whoosh, I challenge you to a duel.
And
So other than taking the weights off, is that machine or is there everything else?
Just the weights.
yep. The light obviously is magnetic. It can move around, so you're able to see your production in a dark environment. It's got a USB charger
And a phone holder.
and a phone holder. something that we get asked for quite a bit. It's a great machine. It's really productive, and it uses the same tooling as our other GP machines. So if you've got the full lineup, then you only have to buy one set of tools or one line of tools.
Forward and reverse, so I can go forward or reverse depending on variable speed. Light off and on. So other than that, it's just a basic, pretty much get her done grinder. Tom's going to turn on the vacuum. And this is where I really need y'all's help. You were here this morning, and I like the tools that I showed you for small spaces. But if I had 5,000 square feet to do, even with this 8274, it was cooking along. But would you want to grind 5,000 square feet at that rate? Probably not. I wouldn't. Time's money, so you're not really spending a whole lot more money or less money in some cases for this tool, and you're going to be able to see the difference, I hope. All right, give me power, Tom.
Something we didn't talk about, power requirements for these machines. The GP500 is 230 volt single phase. The GP700 is 230 volt either single or three phase. So your power, you might be a little bit more limited. Obviously garages, some small commercial, and industrial is going to have this type of power, but not everywhere has it. That's why we have 110 volt grinders. It's also why we have the larger 230 volt grinders as well.
So you guys saw what the small spaces grinders were capable of. What's the difference? It's day and night, is it not? It's day and night. So if you had 5,000 square feet to do, nobody's trying to upsell you anything. I'm not trying to upsell you to spend more money or to have a bigger machine. But if you buy too small of a grinder for the project you're trying to do, it doesn't take very long for your labor cost to exceed what you should have spent, and then from then on it just costs you more and more than it should have. That's real important to understand. Guys are like, oh, well, this machine's $2,000 cheaper. Well, if on average it takes you 20 hours longer a week, I don't know what you're paying your guys. I personally make like $8 an hour, easy, without even trying. At least $8, sometimes $7.50.
Yep. When he tries hard.
How long does it take to bypass that? Not very long. And then for the rest of your time, it's costing you more in labor than it would have if you just bought the right tool for the job. Who wants to come turn this on and run it? It's kind of fun. I like it.
I was gonna say, I love this guy.
So I'll tell you why I like this machine, you guys. It's real simple. You get a ton. You get a lot for what you're spending. It doesn't cost a whole lot. But the return on, I can see the return on investment. It's easy to run. It's high production. It's pretty simple. I like it because if I was Dave's prep service of Denver, I'd love to have this machine. I like those smaller machines for the smaller areas, but man, I would be killing it with this machine if I had to go in and do a 2-car garage and I couldn't use a blaster. I would be all over this in a heartbeat. Who wants to turn it on and run it? Anyone? Jason?
Yeah, come on up,
Just
guys.
turn it on. And right's forward, left's reverse. You guys, someone else want to turn it on and run it for a minute? This is a great opportunity. Just run
Channing,
it for,
come on up.
nobody's grading you. You can't fail. You can't mess up my really hard concrete unless you just sit still for like a really, really long time. And then I think it'll put a Dale Jarrett number 88 in the floor. Ask me how I know that. Wait, don't ask me how you know I know that. Watch that redhead. Easy to run, right? It's not hard to run. And when I tell you guys you need to keep it moving, normally you're prepping, you're just moving it real slow to the left as you're going forward, real slow to the right. You don't have to work yourself to death. This isn't like a disco contest. You just want to move it real slow. These younger guys are going, what's disco? We've heard of this, but... No, they are the same as the GP series. They're all the same. So the GP500, 700, 3000.
Question was...
oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good.
You're hired.
Yes, I got to do my one job. The question was, are the tools for the GP series magnetic like they are for the smaller machines? And no, they are not. But they're held in by the shape of it, by how the machines spin, and friction and weight. So they're not coming out.
So this tooling for these machines are much larger. Matt Segura is going to bring us over some examples. We can't use this really big footprint tooling on the smaller machines because there's not enough head pressure to actually get any production. So the tooling for the smaller machines is smaller footprint. If you use the small footprint machines on this, they would wear out really quickly.
So this is the puck style grinder right here.
Hey, the puck stops here. Oh, wait, that's the buck.
But as you can see, it's that same backside. And then these are just the Velcro adapters and the lippage attachment, which we can talk about later if anyone wants to get into the polishing process. Yeah. Yep.
It depends on. So we had a question, why does the machine, basically the question was, why the water tank? And that is a great question. Tom touched on it a little bit. There's some removal processes that water really helps. One is hospitals, food processing, and there's a lot of places that will accept zero dust. And when I'm walking, even though we've got a vacuum, there's still some dust. I'm kicking up some dust. Well, if there was water on the floor, I would be kicking up no dust. And there's some other applications like glue. You can't grind, I don't know if you guys can see in the background, there's some really thick glue on the floor. You can't grind that up. But you can scrape it with a scraper first or scarifier it with TSR teeth. If you get a bulk of the glue off and you come back with a grinder, the diamonds get hot and it kind of tends to want to smear the glue around instead of removing it. So if you turn off your vacuum and put water in your water tank, it drips down and it keeps the diamonds and the glue cold, so it'll ball it up or remove it off the floor. And ice water is one of my famous tricks. I was on a job one time and the guy had some, and it wasn't real thick glue, it wasn't real thin, but he was grinding it up and he was pouring ice all over the floor that he'd wet down real good. And I was like, I have a question. What did you guys have for breakfast? Why is there ice on the floor? You know, I've been to sporting events and seen ice in, you know, the troughs, but never just poured out on the floor where they, he's like, it keeps the floor cold, keeps the glue cold, and it comes right up. He goes, if it's just water, the water kind of wants to heat up. He goes, I can get the glue off the floor 10 times faster than contractor C down the street. And don't tell anybody my trick. So don't tell anybody his trick. Ice works fantastic. If you don't have ice or you can't use water, because let's say you're grinding the 5th floor of the hospital, if you put water on the floor, they're going to throw you off the job. So if there's glue residue like where we're sticking to it over here, you could put Portland cement down and brush it on the floor, and it'll keep the glue from coming up on your diamonds and sticking to your wheels. If it's a hospital or food processing, go to Costco, Sam's, Walmart, whatever, HEB, buy big bags of flour and put that down instead of the Portland cement. And when I say Portland cement, like mortar mix, something that doesn't have sand or rock in it. That way, it's kind of like Grandma makes biscuits on the counter, but it doesn't stick. You all know what I'm talking about? It does the same thing. So if you can't use water, you use flour or some kind of Portland cement. Usually high rises or anything above the first floor, be really careful about putting water, because if it goes through a crack and drips onto something below you, that could be a big, big problem. Ask me how I know that. All right, who else wants to turn us on before
We switch to...
we're going to switch real quick? Maybe. Have to find the right plug.
No, we got it.
Oh, that's right. We pulled it over here. Okay. And switch.
Hi. For you, sir.
Wait, I'm coming. Hey, Tom. We're not going to have a whole lot of cord,
Okay.
but we should be okay.
Just keep it right in here.
There you go. You get 2-3 feet easy.
So we're not going to go too far, but
Well, here you go, hoser. There you go, hoser.
thank you. I do love the GP700. It's got a couple features. You know, they look very similar in style. The GP700 is a 27-inch. GP500 is a 23-inch counter-rotational grinder. You've got some additional weights up here up front. But there's a really cool feature that this guy has that the GP500 doesn't, and that's the ability to actually adjust the angle of the head of the machine. So I can drop it down or lift it up.
Tom, why would I want to do that?
Well, you know, I don't know about you, but every concrete slab I've ever come into contact with is level. Not. So concrete always slopes in one way, shape, or form. So with this machine, you're actually able to tilt the head of the machine to match the slope of the concrete so that your tools are going to wear evenly, and you're going to make your machine and job much more productive.
So in the warehouse we're standing in, there's offices to my left, and there's giant roll-up doors and dock doors to the right. Shocker, the entire floor slopes down, so any water will go right out the back door versus going into the offices. So with a standard grinder, and most grinders on the market, if you start grinding and I go toward the offices and back, every time I go toward the offices, the front of the diamonds are digging in, leaving really bad swirls. Parking decks, loading ramps, everything's typically concrete's not flat. Now there are some flat surfaces, but for the most part it's sloped one way or another. Garages, almost always, when you park your car and it's been raining, the water runs out
Should
the
run
garage
out
door.
the garage
Except
door.
for your garage and my garage, because we live in Colorado and everything.
So I was
sinks
gonna say
the wrong
mine
way.
runs to that way
So
and
does
that
mine.
way, and
So if it was normal and the garage was uphill once you're in, you'd prep it going toward the house and then come straight back toward the garage door. And that way, if you adjusted this machine to match that, it's going to grind nice and flat, and it's not going to put big swirls in the floor, and it's also not going to prematurely wear your diamonds. It's a really nice feature if you understand it and you've ever had that problem before. Water tank.
as well. The handle is height adjustable. It's a little more complicated, so I'm not going to do it right this minute, but it is height adjustable, so anybody can do it. Your shroud height is adjustable.
Hey now.
Maybe a stupid question. We put diamonds on this, right?
Yeah, I did. I swear I did.
So Dave's going to adjust the handle.
Maybe.
This is why, as you do it more often, it becomes easier. But
When
with
it's new, it doesn't like to move because of the paint.
the paint job doesn't like to give up. There you go.
Too low?
That's right. Right there. Whichever one we got. Yeah, there you go. Like I said, a little more complicated. There we go. Tool check. I have tools, right? Sweet.
I was pretty sure it had tooling on it.
All right.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. So you can see this floats across the floor. So much so that even I can do it one-handed. Dave's adjusting my shroud down for me.
It's leaving a lot of dust because the shroud's up too high. All right, who wants to run this for a minute and give it a shot compared to the other one?
Yeah, come on up. So a little different than the other ones. So you got run and stop. We're not going to adjust speed, but you can actually adjust your speed up and down. You can change directions and speed. You can also watch your amp draw. So it's really cool. Sorry guys on the YouTube, you're not going to be able to see me. You can watch your amps with this. So it's important if you're on a generator or like an older style breaker and you're removing some glue or a mastic or something from the floor, and you're able to watch your amps so you don't overdo it and blow a breaker or destroy your generator. So, all right.
Nice.
So much better.
A lot less dust on the floor when the shroud's adjusted correctly.
It just floats. It's a big machine, but you don't feel it. Anyone else like to run the big boy?
Next.
My favorite grinder.
We have somebody online asking what the big box is on the GP700.
All right. Well, let's. I'm just gonna roll her over to you. But I don't really have a whole lot more cord.
Are you twisted?
So, Dave, the question was, what is the big box? And is it turning AC power into DC power or variable speed? To be honest, that's above my pay grade.
It's a VFD.
I hope that Dave has an answer.
It's a VFD, so it's a variable frequency drive, and this machine actually will run off of 230 volt single phase or 230 volt three phase. If you want to go from 230 volt three phase to 230 volt single phase, I can prove it. All you have to do is drop one leg to run it off single phase. Normally you want to drop the red line coming from the grinder and run your black, white, and green to run on 230 single phase. What's the difference between 230 volt single phase and 230 volt three phase with this machine is it's kind of like putting 87 octane in a NASCAR. It'll probably run, but it's not really good for the motor. I wouldn't do it every day unless you had to. It runs better off of more power. The motor likes more power. It likes the 230 volt three phase. But there's guys that run this on 230 volt single phase every single day. It's how they're set up for generation. It's what they can do. It's what they can find on the job. So it will run off both, but it is driven by a VFD.
So what the box is this is your brains of the machine. So it's going to sense that power coming in. It's going to know what the supply is. This is where you can change the direction. So if you're using just kind of our diamond puck tools, direction really doesn't matter. But if you're using polycrystalline diamond, then it does, because you want those to lead. So you can actually change the direction on here so they spin in the right direction. Or as Dave was talking about earlier, some guys like to switch direction every hour so that their diamonds wear more evenly. So it's really simple to do it. When you're on that, it's enter. You can switch, enter again, and escape, and that confirms it. So now we're in reverse. I can do it again, go to forward, enter, and escape. When I go back to it, I'm back in forward. Right here, I've got my speed control, so I can turn it way down. Minimum is just under 4,000, or I can go way up, hit escape, and have a much higher speed. Typically lower speeds for prepping or removing glues, medium speeds for doing a prep, and then higher speeds for polish once you get into the resin stages.
And you guys, we actually are running this today off of
single phase,
230 volt single phase, and I've got, I don't know, 75 feet of cord on it maybe. So 3-wire, 10 AWG wire, I'm pretty sure is what's on here. So
yep. A couple other things on here too. I was briefly talking about earlier, you do have an amp meter, so you can watch your amp draw. So when you're on a job site, if you know that you're in an older building or your breaker maybe isn't as strong as it should be, or you run off a generator, you can actually watch your amps and watch what you're pulling based off of what you're grinding. So yeah, it was a great question, but this is basically just the brains of the grinder that controls the motor and the speed.
not
oh
too
no,
bad.
that's him. I'm much more expensive.
We're gonna shift to the A96.
Yeah, I think the A9.
Yeah. Anybody else want to turn it on?
All right.
I'm trying to talk you guys into grinding my whole floor for me, and you're not biting. We actually used to have the building at the bottom of the hill by the post office. Wasn't near this big, but we did the same thing, but in a much smaller scale. And we took the GP3000 and literally ground from the front wall all the way to the back. And we put more effort into it than if somebody was paying us. And it looked like a brand new floor. And of course, the management company went in. They came in and went, "How did that? Can you do that to the rest of the building?" We're like, "No." But they were happy. They were happy. You know, it's like the Boy Scout rule: always leave a place better than the way you found it. Between steps, that's a great question. Depends on your labor rates. The question was, should I take my my vacuum and attach the wand to it and vacuum up the dust between every step. That's a subjective answer that you're going to get from me. Yes and no. Yes, because from what I'm told, the dust that we just did, which was 0 diamond, it's big diamond, so the dust is really big. So if I switch to a 1, then the next less aggressive grit, I'm going to have to grind the dust and the floor down at the same time. So I'm putting extra wear on my diamond. So I'm decreasing the life of my tooling. But what about my guys in Chicago that they're union labor and they make a lot of money? In some cases, $100 an hour. I'm not vacuuming. I'm not going to pay a guy $100 an hour to vacuum between steps. Guys that polish, some guys go to the extent of vacuuming and auto scrubbing between every step. Is that necessary? It can affect the light reflectivity. So in other words, how pretty the floor is when you're done. But most people, if they moved into this building and saw this mess and you polished it, it doesn't really matter how good of a job you did of polishing it. They'd go, wow, it's amazing. So the answer to that is subjective. I mean, you have to look at more than one factor to decide whether it's worth it. And if it was me, I wouldn't be using a DL3000. I would have a guy, and he would be my cheapest labor guy, and I'd have him on a DL2000 with a hose and wand vacuuming, so this guy could keep working, because I don't want to take his vacuum to start. I don't want to slow progress down to vacuum dust off the floor. So it's real common for guys, especially on the bigger jobs, they'll have guys with smaller 110 volt vacuums and day labor or whatever you want to call it, vacuuming up the dust, and they will vacuum up the dust if that's the situation. That's pretty common to see that. Great question. I don't know where that came from, but that's a great question.
Let's say we were going to polish this.
Uh-huh.
What would we run over it next?
So polishing is a series of aggressive diamond tooling, and then it shifts into resin pads, and there's juices, and I don't sell juices. National doesn't sell it. You can use whatever product you want. It requires, a lot of times guys will put down like an acid stain or some kind of stain, water. They'll put a stain down, then they'll put a harder densifier, then they'll polish. Then when they're done, they'll put a lithium protective finish and burnish it. So with like the GP700, you can start with zeros most of the time. I tell guys to try to start higher, but my tooling is set up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Your diamond, you could go to 0, but usually you want to try not to grind with that aggressive of diamond unless you have to. Guys will grind with a number 1. What is it? 555, 501, 501. I'm not a part number guy. 501, 501, 111. I remember my first day on the job.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
7, 8. That's it. So you just follow the steps, and then you have to do your color, your hardener densifier, and then your very last step, depending on the manufacturer's recommendation. I can teach you that. I have stuff here that I liked, but I'm not going to say whose it is because everybody gets all offended. You didn't promote my product. Well, I don't sell it. I don't really care, and I'm not trying to be that way. I just have some here, and I know how to use it, so that's what I teach with. I don't care whose product you use. They're all pretty good. I would recommend that you find who's going to give you service after the sale and support you and buy their product. And if you have a distributor that sells somebody's product and they're going to support you, like we have some guys in town that do a really good job of that, and they ask me, who should I buy it from? I send them to that distributor because that distributor has more than one product, and they ask the right questions, and then they recommend the right product. That's really the best thing for me to do from my position. But I can still teach you how to polish. We're not doing polishing today or tomorrow, but we can set something up later if you want to learn how to polish. It's popular, and there's a lot of benefit. Can be a huge moneymaker, especially if you go back. What people don't realize is when polishing first came out, guys ran around and said, I'm going to polish your floor, and you never have to do anything to it ever again. Those guys are what? Liars. There's no such thing as doing something to the floor you never have to go. But people bought into it. realistically, like we talked a little bit a while back. I lived in Oklahoma for a long time before I moved to Denver, and we had a home that was slab on grade. It was a ranch, and I stained and polished every room individually because I couldn't move out of the house to do the whole house. But the floors would get dull after a while. Dogs, kids, sand. I lived out in the country. So every once in a while, I would go in with my burnisher, and I'd actually take a little bit of water and just a little drop of Dawn and just mist it. And I had a hog's hair pad at the time because they didn't have diamond pads that I recall. And I would just burnish my floor, move my couch, burnish the floor, put everything back, and it was amazing, just like the day I did it. And that's all I had to do. But that same thing happens in commercial retail or restaurants. The big office or the big supply stores, they run machines that do that to the floor. You do have to do some kind of maintenance. I mean, I guess if you just polished it and never touched it, maybe not, but that's not how life works. So the money on it is not only the polishing, but
In the maintenance.
the maintenance where you come back ever dependent on the. And there's some. I live in Colorado, and everyone's like, "Dave, you should polish your garage floor," because I bought a home that was built in 2004, and somebody rolled some box storage. We'll just call it latex paint with flakes in it. It looks horrible, but it's still there. Everyone's like, "Dave, you should do your garage floor." I'm like, "No, you should come do my garage floor. I don't do my garage floor. I grind it all day today." But I don't want to polish my garage floor because actually if you polish a floor, it increases the surface coefficient of the floor, which is really, really technical for means it makes it less slippery. And you guys are going to look at a polished floor and go, "Dave, there's no way making a floor look like that. It is less slippery." Well, let me tell you guys a story about Walmart. Walmart would probably kill their own grandmother before they did something that might create a lawsuit. They're smart. They are smart. They're not going to do something that's going to make a floor slippery. Have you guys been in a Walmart recently or anywhere else? The floor is polished. Granted, it's only polished up to about a 400, but their floors are less slippery than just a regular concrete floor. Do you guys want to hear a funny story about Walmart? Okay, it's not. I'm going to tell a funny story about a big box store, not Walmart. This box store decided to polish these first big 3 stores all the way up to 3,000. Super shiny floor, absolutely amazing. Open the store, and you could read the newspaper from the reflection. What do you guys think the problem with that is? No, it's not slippery.
It reflects everything.
It reflects everything. So if you were wearing a dress, so guys are walking around the store behind women, and it took a while for someone to catch on, and they went, oh, they had to close all 3 of those stores and back it up, and that's why I'm pretty sure that the spec now is about a 400 because it's nice and shiny and it reflects the light, but it doesn't reflect inappropriate images that people shouldn't be seeing. Do you guys know why they polish? The big box stores really started it because now, I think I could say Walmart. Walmart runs half as many lights, and their stores are brighter than they were before. And not only does it save electricity with lights, but in the summertime, those lights create a ton of heat. So if you run half as many lights, it creates half as much heat. So their air conditioning consumption goes way down. So once they figured out, it's going to cost me, I don't know, $20 a square foot to polish this floor. That's a ridiculous amount of money. And then they looked at the cost savings over how long it would be until they started making more money. They went, oh, we're never going to put another 12 by 12 down anywhere ever. And it has proven to be very true because everybody else has followed in their footsteps. Rarely do you see any place that's a big, huge box that doesn't have a polished floor. Yes?
Somebody asked, what kind of hourly production do you get out of the GP500?
That is a subjective. Depends on the diamond tooling. The question is, sorry, that's tough for me. What's the hourly production of a GP500? I can't really answer that, and I'm not being difficult, but it depends on how hard your concrete is, what kind of sealers on it, what kind of diamonds you use. There's a lot of factors. I'll answer that offline if you want. You guys can call my cell phone later, and I'll ask you some questions, and then I'll answer the question. But how long does it take me to drive across the city of Denver? Well, am I driving at 5 o'clock? Am I driving in my 2002 Ford Expedition or my Corvette that's out front? Which is it? So I can get across. Can I take the toll lane? Do I have to sit in the regular? There's too many variables for me to really answer that with any kind of realistic answer. I would say that 500 to 1,000 square feet, somewhere in that range, no problem. I mean, you guys saw it running, but that doesn't mean that 500 to 1,000. That's a pretty big gap. You know, the guys down on the Gulf Coast, they're like, I get 1,500 square feet without even trying. Their concrete's super soft. You know, guys in Tennessee where they have all of the really, really super hard concrete with a huge aggregate in it, granted in the concrete, their production might be 600 square feet an hour, and they're happy to get that. Guys always ask me that question on a lot of equipment, but there isn't a very good answer. Like, they ask me on the riders, what's my production rate on carpet? Well, what kind of carpet is it? You know, how long has it been down? How well is it bonded? Which machine are you using? Which rider are you using? How good is your operator? There's so many different factors that I really struggle to answer that, and it's not because there isn't an answer, but the job site conditions dictate that answer. And if I give you an answer, it's not the right answer. And if I tell you, oh, you can do 3,000 square feet an hour, that makes me a liar, and I don't want to be a liar. I mean, I have better things to do. I want you guys to trust me and be my friend. You know, we're all family here, right? All of us. It's just not a really good question for me to answer without asking a lot of questions. Now, if there's more specifics, sometimes I can get pretty close. I can be helpful with the answer, but I need to ask more questions. I mean, that's like calling a roofer guy going, hey, how much to replace my roof? Well, he's not going to tell you. He's got to come look at your roof and how steep is it? How big is your house? He's got to ask a bunch of questions. He's not going to tell you $5,000. He's going to ask a bunch of questions. Otherwise, he's going to show up and be out of business real quick. Any more questions that I can't answer? Stump Dave, get a free bottle of water. Free bottle of water. Tom?
I think that's it. A96.
We got a few minutes. Let's go over it.
So earlier we showed off the A95, which is our 8-inch manual walk-behind shot blaster. And we're going to be talking about our A96, which is our 8-inch self-propelled shot blaster.
I love shot blasters, Tom. I bleed shot blasters from early on in my career. They clean the profile in one step. If you guys missed it this morning, you'd think that I was having an affair with one. I like what they do. I like the profile they leave. There's not a whole lot I don't like about shot blasting, but like I said this morning, there's things shot blasters won't do. It has its limitations. Every mechanic has a whole bunch of tools in his toolbox. It's hard to be a contractor with just a grinder or just a shot blaster. It really helps to be a mechanic with a toolbox full of tools instead of one tool. This is a great example. There's a ton of applications where the grinder is going to be super helpful, but there's also a ton of applications where a machine like an A96 it's like sliced bread, man. It's awesome.
So I just mentioned that these two machines are both 8 inches, and in the difference between one being self-propelled and the other not, why would we have two? Well, this is a 230 single phase. It is a 5.1 horsepower motor. Dave, do you remember how many horsepower that Metabo grinder's rated at? I think like 2 or 3, something like that. So over the same amount of space, you have almost twice as much oomph behind the same diameter blast wheel throwing that shot at the floor. So your impacts are going to be harder, they're going to be greater, and your productivity is going to be almost double what the other machine is. So every step up you take, you get a little bit more productive. Our engineers have done a really great job with this machine.
Agreed.
So some of the same features that Dave probably talked about earlier. Naturally shaped rebound plenum here so that the shot flows naturally. An extra large separation chamber so that more of that silica dust gets out of the shot, which extends the life of your machine through the liners and the blast wheel. We've got the motor, something that you can see now that I just turned it on. We've got 4 LED lights. Again, so you guys can see the actual job site and the profile that you're making if you're in the dark. I'm going to put the drive pin in so that you guys can see it, but I'm going to spin around and show one of the best features of this machine, or two of them. One of them is the innovative control handle, and the other one is the super easy to change the amount that your blast or shot valve is opening to control
your
how
shot
much
valve
shot.
limiter is amazing.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say the incredibly good-looking operator, but I was close.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Dave. I was going to say, it's just because I got to shower this morning. So we'll talk about the innovative control handle to start with. And so traditional shot blasters have a handle that comes out and you've got to grab it like this, and that's really uncomfortable when you're operating it through the day, because now when I'm trying to turn it around, I'm bending my wrist in a lot of different ways. So what our engineers did was they looked at the natural movement of what operators are doing, and they came up with this really innovative joystick control that as you move and as you walk the machine around, the controls follow you. On the back of the joystick, you have a trigger, and the trigger is going to be what drives the machine towards you. And then you've got a couple other controls. Blue is reverse, which is actually away from you. So it's going to push the machine back that way. And then gray is overdrive. So right now, I've got the machine set at about half of its actual speed that it's capable of. By pushing overdrive, it overrides that and allows me to turn the machine around really quick, or push it really quick in reverse. It's really handy for turning around when you're not actually in the production. And I know this is Dave's favorite part, so I'm going to let him talk about it.
Okay, I'm up. Oh, wait, I'm down. Man, down. So we're not going to move this currently because there's shot in and it's going to spill it all out. But when Tom pushes the shot valve cable handle forward, it's going to open up the one-barrel carburetor, which is the shot valve, and allow shot to feed into the wheel. Well, one of the biggest problems that guys have, or one of the struggles that we've seen in this industry for a lot of years, is this is tied into 230 volt single phase, and we're tied into, let's say, a 30 amp breaker. Well, if the shot valve opens up too much and lets too much shot feed through, it pulls more amps, and if it pulls more than 30 amps, it trips the breaker. Well, that's a problem. So you had to make all kinds of adjustments, which you can actually still do up here. And it was complicated. It was hard to explain, and it was hard to get right. And once you took it apart, if you weren't paying attention, it was really hard to get it put back together. So our engineering department has incorporated this shot limiter. So this bolt, when he pulls the handle, it's going to stop right here. So if I'm pulling 34 amps, I'm going to turn that screw in so it only allows the shot valve to open just so much. If I'm only blasting, if it's only pulling 10 amps, I'm not feeding a whole lot of shot to the blast wheel, so I'm not getting very much production. So I can actually turn this bolt out, loosen it up, so it'll allow to open up farther. The shot valve opens up more and more shot feeds, the higher my production. So that's an amazing feature of this machine, only because it takes all of the complicated adjustments for my machine's tripping breakers. It takes all that out of it right away. So thanks, Tom, for that.
Of course.
Anything else you want me
Well,
to talk
we've got
about?
a great hose management system, cable management system on the back end. I think Nick will be able to swivel the camera over so that we can show that to you real quick. It just keeps the cord and the hose together. And if you can see in the background, and as I do the demo, a little bit ago, I actually taped the electrical cord to the hose like you would do on a job site to keep them together and out of the way. And that's why our engineers put them together at the other end of the machine to keep them away from your feet and make job site safety a priority. So I think that's about it. Are there any questions on features or Anything before we run this bad boy? Nope. I'm gonna go back and forth over there if that's all right.
Oh.
I was gonna say I don't want to hurt anybody, and all right.
Did you turn your speed down?
Yeah, I'm at about a 4.
Very nice. Very nice, very nice. Thank you, Sir Tom.
You're welcome. So even though this area's been blasted and cleaned before, you guys can see that it left a very even pattern. Operator kind of messed up the cornrow part, but I wasn't really trying to pay too much
Well,
attention to
we're kind of all crammed in here, and it's pretty tight spaces, so we're doing the best we can to.
So you've got, these were my 2 passes right here. So you can kind of see what a cornrow would look like where I overlapped it a little bit. So it's not crazy obvious right now, but if you were to do like a clear coat on that, it's going to stand out.
Clean up all 6.
And that was actually moving pretty slow, so that's actually a pretty aggressive blast.
This concrete's so hard, though. In this building, it's just plain ridiculous. We're lucky, though, because we can blast and blast and blast. If it's just regular old concrete, we'd run out of concrete already a long time ago. All right, who has questions? You guys got to have questions. Bring it on.
Or who'd like to run it too?
Anyone? Bueller? Bueller? Come on, you guys got to have questions. I get paid by the question. Dang, it's going to be a...
I think actually now would be a really good time to talk about power generation on job sites.
Yes. Maybe.
Maybe. Can you come talk for a moment about generators? We'll get you mic'd up. So we're going to talk about power requirements on job sites.
We actually have one of our partners here with Machinex. Joe, I'm gonna let him introduce himself really, and talk a little bit about. So you guys all know that power on job sites is a struggle. Some of my guys in my live audience can tell you right now the value of a generation, but not just the value of generation, the value of the right kind of generation for the right kind of tool.
Good.
So, and you don't have to talk to the camera, you can just talk to these guys,
Okay.
and they can hear you and everybody can hear you. Yeah, we can switch around.
Okay.
So as an industry, you know, Joe, we struggle with powering our equipment. We make great equipment, but half the time we're tripping breakers. We're waiting on union electricians that never show up, and if they do, they're like, hey, I'm here and I'm taking a union break. I'm not picking on the guys, but it's tough. They're busy. You're not the top of their priority. Not having a large enough breaker when you get there. Getting an electrician out to change the breaker. I talked to a guy this week where the hospital said, you're not touching my panels for any reason, and I'm the electrician for the hospital, and I'm not touching these panels. Run things that are more important than your flooring job. So as we continue to move ahead in this industry, having reliable generation to run the equipment as an option, and an educated option, is more and more and more important to us all the time. Joe, take it away.
Yeah. So along with what he was just telling you guys, there are other cases where, let's say everything does work out. They do, hardwire into a panel. They have an electrician, and they're in a facility this big, and it's ongoing, and the panel's in this corner, and you need to grind or do whatever in that corner. You got to run your cable from here to there, and now you have the problem of having to make sure no one runs it over. I did a job one time. I used to install, and we were cutting wet, and we were just finished, and a guy went to roll the machine back and roll it out of the way, and didn't see that he caught a piece of the corner of the cable that was running 480. Mind you, me and my partner are standing close to we're in the water, and it pops in there. And one of the reasons why was how far we were running the cable. A generator, we can set up in this corner, that corner, run cable through it on the edge. You have the ability to set up in different locations and not run 300 lineal feet of cord. You can narrow it down. So what we've done at Machinex is we have some very unique generators. We're basically kind of in the middle of the small generator that everyone sees that you can buy and keep in your garage, and the tow behind generator. How do we fit ourselves in that category? The reason being is that our generators, starting with the small one that you guys see there.
Do you want me to roll it over here for you, Joe?
Or we can walk over. Yeah, we can walk over here. So this generator here is a 9 kW. It's really small. The unique thing about all of our generators is the alternator. The alternator here in ours, like normal alternators, you will see copper wiring, right? Ours do not have copper wiring in our alternators. It's a rare earth magnet. Sure.
Okay. Did you turn his mic off? Thanks you guys for joining us. We're going to continue in person here, but we're going to cut off on the live stream. Thanks for joining us here from Denver, Colorado, National Flooring Equipment. We appreciate your loyalty and your time that you took with us today. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to National or myself or Tom at any time. We're here to support you.